Welcome to Koi Keepers Anonymous, the show for koi addicts, pond nerds, and anyone who said they'd stop buying fish but didn't. Today, we're talking about sleeping sickness. Oh, I'm Ty, that's Devin, that's Woody, and that's Mickey.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, guys, I forgot there's a whole part where I introduce everybody.
It's okay. Let's get to it.
Let's just dive straight in, yeah.
Yes.
So, sleeping sickness, I don't know a lot about it. So I'm going to be leaning on you guys more to understand what that is and how to
The thing is, you're not supposed to know about it. We're supposed to be the ones taking care of it for you. Ideally, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, like as a hobbyist, you never really have to run into it because although it's not difficult to treat, it requires like specialized equipment. Like most people don't have like heated ponds, so it can be quite difficult if you don't have a heater.
It also requires a certain amount of emotional and mental fortitude, because it does look a little bit scary if you don't know what it is. So I actually have photos. This is like the Nishikinkoi manual. Product placement, we sell this. And it has, so on the manual, there's like the varieties, right, of the fish, and it describes it a little bit. But the second part of it is a bunch of like diseases, like the most common diseases and how to treat it, right? And they have a little section about sleeping sickness. And this is what it looks like. Can you see it?
Yeah, imagine walking out to your pond and all your fish are just on the bottom on their sides.
It looks a little scary because they all look like they've not survived for some reason. They will respond.
Saw that, I would be on the phone with you guys so fast.
Yeah. You actually might not. You might actually scoop them up and think.
Well, that's the thing, though. As soon as you try to go and scoop them up, they take off swimming.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just lay there.
Well, that's when it's probably a little bit.
In any case, sleeping sickness is because they're like asleep. They're responsive to sound and they might actually respond to it, but not all the time. And as scary as it looks, the remedy is actually quite easy and basic. It's just salt and heat.
And if you want to go the extra step, you can use like in Japan it's called biotalk. But essentially it's like a chlorine dioxide. It's like a mild oxidizer that's used to help like the fish aid in their treatment. Because what sleeping sickness actually is, it's a virus. So if the fish are like shedding the virus, it'll kill like excessive viral load in the water column. And then along with the heat and the salt will help them fight off the virus and regain their strength.
So for those of us who have access to salt and heat, how long would we have to do salt and heat for to get them out of it?
In a week, you're going to start to see the fish kind of turning around. Basically, you just want to monitor the fish. Aside from the laying on the bottom on their sides and like lack of movement, you'll kind of see like the eyes kind of get like a little bit sunken and stuff like that.
Their skin loses luster too. It becomes really dull.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that it's something that ideally no hobbyists are supposed to experience is because it's kind of like a chickenpox. You have it once and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is with sleeping sickness as well is you want the fish to be inoculated when they're young, like in Tosai, because the older the fish is that's naive to the virus and becomes exposed, the more lethal it actually is to the fish. Larger fish have a much harder time overcoming the virus than younger fish do.
So it will kill an older fish.
Yeah.
It's the chances of it not surviving that sickness when it's older is just much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Do all fish get it? I'm understanding. I think I have this idea that all fish are supposed to get it.
A lot of the fish from Japan are inoculated from it, and if you get a fish that isn't inoculated from it and you put it in a pond that has like fish that have been inoculated, then you're essentially exposing the fish to the virus. If it's a Tosai, then salt and heat, right? If it's a Nisai, Sansai, like if it's older, like Devin said, it's difficult. So yeah, most of the time I'm going to say all fish from Japan are inoculated.
Yeah, most Most fish in Japan are inoculated. It's one of those things where you want the fish to be inoculated
Yes.
against it as opposed to having like a naive fish with it. Because you never know like what populations of fish have been exposed or haven't. And if you mix fish that have been naive to it, then you're gonna have to deal with it.
Sometimes the breeders will send fish that haven't slept yet, and when they do that, they'll tell us because then we're going to be the ones to expose the fish to the virus here when it arrives.
How do you expose the fish to the virus?
Usually you just get like an older fish and mix it in with fish that are naive to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it like triggers a response. But like sometimes there are cases where it doesn't trigger a response. I've had cases where I bought fish from farms and they said, look, we tried to get this one to sleep, but it didn't. So maybe it's already been exposed or has natural immunity, or maybe just the fish that we tried mixing it with, didn't pass it along.
So I heard 99.9% of the fish from Japan have already slept. The ones that haven't, is it because they sold them very quickly, very young? Or what would be the circumstance that would cause that?
One of the things that I could think of right now is, they need it in time for a certain event, for example. So they'll expose it to the virus while they're in quarantine. Or maybe the harvest or the spawning was a little bit later. Usually it's a logistic thing.
And I know too, like certain places, like I believe China, you have to test for like sleeping sicknesses, like a edema virus. So they need like health certificate certifying that fish are actually naive to it. So
Mhm.
certain countries require fish that have never been exposed to it.
Exactly.
So there's could be for that reason too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. I have two questions. One, if I am a hobbyist and I have some domestic koi that were, born here in the US that
Mhm.
came from like a garden center or something, and then I go to my koi dealer and I purchase a fish that came from Japan that has slept, are my domestic koi now susceptible to getting this virus?
Yeah, yeah, we've actually heard of cases of that where people have said, when they purchased fish from Japan and mixed it in together with like their domestically bred fish, that they had an instance where sleeping sickness did pop up.
Somebody called us and they were at their wits' end because they had been ordering and ordering fish and it just kept dying on them and they had done everything right. Uh, I think they ordered 2 or 3 batches and they couldn't figure it out and sent us videos and we're like, "Wait, that kind of looks like sleeping sickness." And so we told them just put this salt, and it was a small
Like aquarium store.
aquarium store, so they didn't have a lot of experience with koi in particular. And then they called us like a week later. It's like, "Oh my god, it's amazing! They all survived. They all look so healthy. Thank you guys."
I find it interesting though, because like essentially the act of raising the temperature, you're inducing like a fever for the fish. So just like how our bodies, like we raise our temperature to fight off like viruses or bacteria invading, same thing works in fish.
Yeah, it's like an immune response. That's why our bodies do it, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
what temperature do you need to raise the water to?
At a minimum 70, but ideally 75 degrees.
2 other medication that shows like to be effective against sleeping sickness is terramycin and nitro
Nitrofurostyrene.
nitrofurostyrene. That's what he said.
I've heard of that.
But it's just too complicated to keep all those medications on hand, and we always have salt. So if you could do that, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah.
You had a second question, Ty.
I did. My second question, with sleeping sickness, does it only affect carp or can it affect other cyprinids like goldfish?
I don't know, to be honest. I know like other viruses like koi herpes virus doesn't affect goldfish in like a lethal way, but they can be carriers. So I imagine it's probably the same because I haven't heard of anything like in regards to goldfish being susceptible to sleeping sickness or anything like that. But I would think that they could probably be a carrier.
I was, I was probably in the hobby, like at the obsession level for like a year before I became aware of sleeping sickness. There was one video I saw of a breeder, and they were just somebody was filming and they were just casually walking by what looked like a whole pond of dead fish, and they like didn't acknowledge it. They just kind of kept walking. I was like, wait a second, hold on, what the hell? And I think I don't remember if I showed you or told you about it, but you were like, oh yeah, that's definitely sleeping sickness.
Yeah, I believe I remember you mentioning that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's probably just they're treating sleeping sickness.
And it's so funny because we're like, oh yeah, that's just sleeping sickness. Don't worry about it. But it looks so terrifying.
It is strange how it affects like the fish's ability to remain buoyant, and then also that they kind of like fall on their sides on the bottom. It's quite unique. The only other time I think you really see fish get to that state is like when it's really like something where they're too far gone already, where there's not a chance of any recovery. So yeah, it's kind of shocking.
At the beginner level, it's very likely that people are going to be mixing a Japanese fish with a garden center fish. And if they are relying on their garden center for help, I feel like it's a high likelihood that those people probably also will not be familiar.
Yeah.
They're going to say like,
No.
oh, that fish is dead, or, they can't, they're probably going to get some weird advice.
Yeah, I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that actually.
Yeah, because a garden, like, obviously it's going to be like the garden center fish that would be affected. So
Right.
you're going to think, oh, there's something wrong with that fish, not
Mhm.
realizing, oh, maybe this is something coming from the other fish. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a good idea, too, to like quarantine your fish and mix in like a canary fish from your existing population just to see how they react. Because
Mhm.
outside of like parasites or bacterial issues and stuff like that, there's viral stuff that you can't see, and you only see a reaction once you put the fish together.
What you were saying before about it being important to quarantine your fish and almost have like a canary fish to introduce to the new fish, see
Yeah.
if there's something that's gonna happen. Are you suggesting that I should keep a really ugly koi that I don't care about, just so I can
Yes.
introduce it to the new koi?
Yes. It's always a really good idea.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
Always keep one fish you really don't like.
So essentially, you can't get rid of that fish that your spouse likes.
We just gave every spouse out for a reason.
Hey, I can relate to that too much.
So I said earlier that it's usually something that the dealer needs to take care of and all
Mhm.
that stuff. And it's funny because we have a bunch of books about koi, right? And some of them are, health books. One of the books that we have here is by Eric Johnson. Well, this is me binding it so that it's easier for me to read it. But I don't know if I actually saw anything about
Oh, I
sleeping
think
sickness
that
in here.
book is pre-sleeping sickness.
No.
Yeah.
Are you
Couldn't-
kidding me?
Yeah, like that's
You know,
that's the
2006.
that's a republished version, but yeah.
It's updated for 2006, it says.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
but
do you mean? Tell me.
what about the Nishikuo manuals? Does it say anything about when sleeping sickness like kind
Uh-uh.
of came about?
Uh-uh.
I'm
'Cause
not
I've
sure
always known about
like
exactly.
what he was saying, I had never heard of sleeping sickness till I had been in the hobby for probably like 2 years, 3 years. Like it's not
I would
something that
s-
comes up very often.
No.
I know while I was working in Japan, it was already a thing and we were
Mm.
treating for it, but I don't know when exactly it kind of became a thing.
So
But
it's
if
one
I
of
were
these
to
new
say,
diseases that evil people made in a lab and released onto the world.
I don't know if it's new, but I think they figured out what it was like in the what is the 2000s called, the aughts or whatever, like in the early aughts, they figured out what it was, but I think it had existed and nobody knew what it was or what to do with it.
Ty had the question about are other fish affected, because also there's this huge invasive carp problem in certain areas, right?
Yeah.
So is that something that they've played with or thought about?
Oh, are you talking about the Mississippi?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the the grass carp or whatever, or something like that.
Some
Those ones that
country
jump.
Carp are sterile. I think they're talking about like the
Ah, that's right.
Asian carp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, if they could be technically carriers of, like, sleeping sickness or anything like that. But that would be kind of funny if that was, like, the fix for the jumping carp to make them sleep.
Right. Yeah, that is true because that's kind of like a really almost like a safe space to play with, right?
Yeah, you're opening a can of worms, though, because Australia
Always.
tried to control their carp population by introducing KHV into their waterways, and that didn't quite work out
Oh,
for
okay. So
them.
that's
I think
exactly
that
like what my question was. Yeah. So that's
mhm,
already been
that's what I
tried
was
and
yeah.
it was a disaster.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Australia's got a real fun history of, like, introducing non-native species and, like, diseases to try to control, invasive species and stuff.
Like humans?
And it
Yeah,
always
and then they have to
backfires,
bring in
doesn't it?
some other thing to get rid of the thing that they brought because there's nothing there to compete with it. And
Yep.
I don't know. It's interesting, right? Because they just keep doing it.
Or any imports of carp into Australia is completely banned, as far as I know.
But they still have a flourishing koi hobby.
Yeah, they do. Like what he was saying, they still have a flourishing hobby there,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Like they have to breed everything themselves, so they come up with some unique stuff. And they even have, I think, koi shows as well.
Yeah. This year at the Philippine Quiz Show, there was a hobbyist that he's Filipino. He grew up in the Philippines and moved to Australia. And he never forgot going to my dad's shop in the Philippines and just looking at the koi. And,
Yeah.
he went to Australia and started, I think he keeps koi there,
Mm-hmm.
but he participated at the koi show. He bought a fish, entered at the koi show. I think it won an award. His daughter chose it. And yeah,
He
it was
also
really
brought
cute.
like a friendship award from his club in
Yeah,
Australia
he did,
to give to
which
somebody.
means there is a koi club in Australia.
They're like rogue koi keepers down there. That's wild.
Yeah,
The
it's kind of like
government says this isn't allowed, but they're still doing it.
Well, they're allowed to have them. They're just not allowed to import them.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah. So they're all domestic Australian. So yeah, I'm curious what kind of varieties maybe they'll come up with something unique over there.
I do have something that I think would be interesting for people who are listening. How can they tell if their fish has sleeping sickness versus if it's actually just dying? Devin.
you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you to ask.
Oh well, the fish, laying on the bottom would be kind of like a sudden onset thing. Like probably in 1 to 2 days, it's gonna get to that point where it's just laying down there. Like we said earlier too, the sunken eyes are a good like indicator of it. If you feel the fish, they usually kind of like lose most of their slime coat, so they feel pretty rough. Visually, they look really dull. The colors do not look good. They lose like lots of appetite, and they kind of have like that thing where they have no spatial awareness. Like if they do swim, it's real erratic, chaotic, and they don't like see the wall coming up, stuff like that. They'll just bump into stuff.
Respond to sound though.
Yeah, they respond to sound. They respond to touch as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, it's usually like it sets in really fast, and that's when you can tell like it's sleeping sickness versus like a fish that's kind of like laying on the bottom because it's gonna like die is got to take it takes a while to get to that point because these are carp and they're pretty resilient. So
Mhm.
unless like you
By
suddenly
resilient,
your
you
water
mean
becomes
invasive.
yeah, unless your water is like ammonia, it just becomes the water quality becomes so poor that it's like lethal to the fish. That's the only time where you'd see like a rapid decline in the fish's like health, as opposed to it being like sleeping sickness.
How much salt do they put?
Oh,
Like once
yeah.
you
Oh
diagnose that it
yeah.
is sleeping sickness, what do you do? Like what are the actual steps that people should take?
You want to go high because you got to like really give the fish a fighting chance.
Mhm.
So, in a percentage wise, that's like 0.55 to like 0.6% is what you want to maintain the salt at. And if you like to use parts per thousand like I do, that's 5.5 to 6.0 parts per thousand. Are you shushing my parts per thousand?
If you're a sane American doing percentage and you're using one of these or one of these, it's 0.5 or 0.6.
5.5.
0.55. Okay.
Yeah. You want to be up to the limit.
For how long?
Minimum of a week usually, and it
Mhm.
depends on your water temperature, but visually just inspect the fish, watch them, see how they're reacting. Once they kind of return to normal, then you can start dropping that salinity down.
And what is the lowest temperature that they could be treating the sleeping sickness?
I mean, the higher you can get it, the better their odds of surviving. So I would say at a minimum 70. But if you can get up to 75, that's better.
Will like let's say the water is at 60 because sleeping sickness does it happen in a certain temperature range or at any time? I think it needs to be a little cold, but
Yeah, it does seem to like show up more in cooler water.
mhm.
I'm going to make a hypothetical treatment situation. So, assuming these are tocai, so these are small fish, 30 cm or under. Now, I have a big pond that I don't want to necessarily put 100 pounds of salt in there, and I can't heat it. It's way too big to heat without doing something drastic. So, what if this happens to me? I say, okay, I've got some tocai here that are suffering from sleeping sickness. I'm going to go to the store and buy a 20-gallon tank, put a heater in there, and I can hold some tocai in there for a few days, and salt the tank with a very small amount of salt, relatively easy to heat. Does that sound like a good solution?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely better than not heating it. But one thing to be mindful of is just, keeping an eye on the water quality. Because in a small body of water like that, like your ammonia levels can creep up pretty high, especially without any filtration on there.
Yeah.
Right,
So
but
do
then
water
I'm thinking
changes.
like I'm probably not going to be feeding them. They're sick, so they're not going to be eating anyways. And
Won't they
it's a
still do,
small
like,
enough body of
ammonia and
water
stuff?
that water
They're
changes
still going to be
are
giving off
manageable.
ammonia from their gills when they breathe.
Right.
That's actually like where majority of it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Right.
you want
I
to
would
keep
still
an eye
do
on that.
water changes, like
Yeah, for
20% a
sure.
day. Mhm.
Yeah, I would even do more on an aquarium. A water change is not that big of a problem like it is in a pond.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, 5-gallon
That's true.
bucket. You already did a 25% water change on a
yeah,
20-gallon.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like to do 50-60% water changes on my aquarium, so I could do that.
Mhm.
No
And
problem.
don't
Yeah.
forget to dechlorinate.
Of course.
Just a reminder, because that's actually, in my opinion, in my experience, the deadliest thing for koi is chlorine. Chlorine has killed.
It's the most successful.
It's the most successful.
That's why it's in our prayers that you don't forget to turn off the hose.
Turn off the hose.
That's right.
Mhm.
But at the same time, also, you can do a 10% water change and not dechlorinate that 10%.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Chlorine's not
So
that
it's
strong.
it's weird that there's a fine line where it's very deadly, but also not that deadly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Kind of like when you're joking around with your wife. There's a fine line when it's deadly, and then it turns not so deadly.
I think it starts not so deadly and then it turns deadly.
Exactly. I was like, but I don't want to say anything. You should say it.
Sorry, I'm still eating, guys. So it's still like my brain is still like firing up. So yeah.
Yeah, those of us whose wives are not in the room will have to comment on that.
One last question.
Sure.
So we've been
Go.
talking about sleeping sickness, but with KHV, I know that there's really not a lot you can do, but I've always heard that heat ramping is a big thing that people say to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mhm.
assuming for the same reasons that it helps your fish's immune system, but KHV is the mortality rate, even with heating your pond, is still not great.
Well,
So I don't know if I have a question. I'm just making some statements and bouncing them off of you to help me understand what I'm saying better from what I've heard.
Yeah. Like with any kind of viral infection, if you can raise that water temperature up, that's going to help the fish's immune system kind of try to fight off like that virus. Same thing like with our body does when we have a fever.
and I've also heard some interesting things about KHV with heat, which actually is a great whole episode.
Okay. We'll save it for another time. So on that note, I think I said the prayer last time.
Oh, my dad is gonna hate this part.
You should say it.
No. You know, my dad called me after I released the last episode. He's all like, Mick, the episode is so good. It's really nice. You know, you did such a great job, but you really have to do that prayer? It's blasphemous, you know?
Your dad's gonna resend his invite to the Philippines now. He's gonna be like, I don't know about that Thai guy.
Maybe
He's gonna grab you by the shoulder over there. He's like, Ty,
all
you're a good religious boy. What are you doing this for?
all we need to do, I think, is to not say dear Koi. Just start with like, grant me the serenity.
I don't think that
Should,
would
Dear
should
work.
we say
Koi.
the mantra? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
That
was like the best blood curl.
Dear Corey is what makes it funny. I think God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Our manifestation.
That's what I said.
Yeah. All right, I'll say the prayer then. Are you ready? All right. Dear Koi, grant me the serenity. I'm going to start that over.
Okay, go.
Dear Koi, grant me the serenity to accept the Sumi I cannot change, the courage to choose my Koi, and the wisdom to remember to turn off the hose. Amen.
I'm sorry.
Amen.
Can I get an amen up in here?
Amen.
Amen. Wait. We had somebody who reached out to us through the website.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we have not acknowledged that person.
We have not replied to them yet.
You can reply to them live
Yes.
on an episode.
Oh. But it's going to be so late.
Better late than never.
That's true.
Can we just tag it onto this just to address
Yeah.
it right now?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Right now?
1 second. Right
Right
now.
now.
All right, guys, we actually got an email, so thank you for listening to Mr. Steve.
Should we keep his name anonymous?
Well, it's just Steve. He didn't put a last name.
Could have been Steve Gibbons, but it's not.
It didn't
So-
sound like it was Steve. Sorry, I'll be quiet. I'll shut up. You go.
All right. This is from Mr. Steve. Hi, gang. Just found your show and I love it. I'm up to episode 5 right now, and I'm not sure if you've covered something like this yet. We kept koi at our old house for about 6 years. The main pond was 3.5 feet deep, and the filtration system was cheap and not great, but with a ton of elbow grease, we made it work. We had 2 koi ponds and 2 water gardens that were built on a tight budget. We started with PetSmart koi, then we met real koi people, and then you know where that goes. We had some great fish from some of the great Japanese breeders. We sold our house in Tampa, Florida, and bought some property out in the country an hour north. It took 18 months to build this house. I had plans to build my dream pond when it was done. About a year into the house build, something wiped out every one of my fish in the stock tank I was keeping them in. I was so devastated, I didn't even look into what it could be. I just buried my fish, emptied the tank, and said I was done. Oh my God, what if this is sleeping sickness, guys? No more ponds for me. Well, 5 years later, I want back in. I'm blessed to be in a better financial position to be able to invest in good quality filtration, and I want to dig it 10 foot by 16 by 5 to 6 feet deep with a bottom drain. My question is, do you go right in with both feet with quality Japanese fish, or do you see how fish react to your pond with cheaper fish first? We have herons all over the place, and while Florida has a reputation for being hot, it also has wild temperature swings in the winter. 28 to 87 and back down to the 30s in just this week. Wow.
That's crazy. Is
Right?
it Florida?
Yeah, Florida.
Wow.
I don't want to spend thousands upon thousands on the pond and look at the fish and think, ugh. I also don't want to spend a ton on fish that may not do well. I guess that's a hobby in a nutshell. What would you guys do? Keep up the great work with the show. Yes. We're keeping it up for you, Mr. Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
No,
Yeah, Steve, thanks for taking
Thank
the
you so
time to
much.
discuss that.
I
Yeah,
know. I'm
it's-
sorry it took us so long to get back to you, but we're so grateful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
we really appreciate the email.
So
I'd
let's-
say, why
Yeah,
not
let's-
start
let's-
with like a couple small Japanese fish? stuff like that, just to see how they're doing. I mean, he's been keeping
Yeah,
koi for quite a long time. I'm sure he has the skills to know what he's doing. So I don't think, like a couple like little $50 tosai, something like that range, probably be the way to go, just to make sure all the water's good.
What would you guys suggest?
The same, but not a couple. I would get maybe a dozen tosai that are, not the expensive ones.
10 foot by 16 foot by 5 to 6 feet deep.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good
That's a
size.
huge pond.
Yeah, that is a good size. What about you, Ty? What would you do if you were in his position?
It's like a 6,000 gallon pond, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
That's 10,000 gallons?
Like around
6,000.
6,000 at like 5 feet
Oh,
deep.
6,000. Okay, yeah.
What would your suggestion be for?
I think so. I'm trying to come up with something funny that's not obvious, but I'm nothing's coming to me.
Well,
No,
while you're thinking about it, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I honestly I do think that just getting some tosai if you're I don't think you should be scared of getting into Japanese koi again, but I do like the idea of you don't need to put all your eggs in like one basket with buying 3 like higher quality, more expensive koi, because I've seen it firsthand that you can do some really cool stuff even with a $50 tosai. I think
Yeah.
Mr. Woody here is a great example of what you can do with a $50 tosai.
Yeah, I would do basically what I did. Just get several, not the most expensive, but still decent quality breeders. And yeah, I'm super happy with like my chagoi, my showa, my karashigoi. They were all $50, and I'm still loving them as they grow big. So yeah, if you just be careful with your selection and go ahead.
I actually think so. This is interesting because he doesn't have his pond built yet. He's getting into it and he's excited to build it. So he mentioned he has heron in this area. So I want to emphasize you want to build straight-sided walls because
Yeah.
heron is going to really hurt those fish, right? And he
Right.
says he's going to have a bottom drain. I also want to emphasize at least 3 inches for the bottom drain. And then after that, filtration is a opinionated topic, so I'll let him decide his opinions on filtration. But when
How
it
many
comes to
bottom drains
koi,
would you do?
2.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 probably in a pond size like that, I would
Yeah.
say.
3 inches.
But
I
I
want
mean,
to say
4 inches.
you can do magical things without bottom drains, so
Right, Woody? But that's really
I
deep.
wanna-
That's really deep, guys.
one thing I would recommend is if you're just starting to build your pond, get your biomedia and start maturing it now. Add some ammonia,
Yeah, that's a good
add some
idea.
bacteria, add some
You
buy
can do that
some-
without
like in a trash can with
because
ammonia.
new pond syndrome is very frustrating, and you can skip that step by planning
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I like the way that Woody did it more than the way that I did it. With
It saves a
developing
lot
the
of grief.
media and everything while you're building the pond. Because I waited until the pond was done and filled it, and then I started. I didn't have fish in it. I got to preface this: when I filled it with water, there were no fish in it when I started dumping ammonia and bacteria into it to ramp everything up. But that's how I did it.
So, Steve,
then-
what I did was I bought a couple of trash cans and filled them up with my biomedia and put some air stones in there and just kept adding ammonia. And this reminds me of something else that I see a lot of the British YouTube koi tubers, they complain about K1Me plastic biomedia, and I hear them say this, oh, it's great for ammonia, but it's not good for nitrite. And I've heard some of the most famous, the big popular British YouTubers are saying this. I want to counter that with, I don't think so. I don't agree. I think that if you look at the fish farms that are radically stocked, insane stocking levels, and they're using only plastic biomedia and they're not having nitrite problems, that plastic media is eating the ammonia and the nitrite, and they're stocked beyond your wildest nightmares, and with high growth rates on commercial fish farms. And so
Yeah.
so let's look at that. How are they doing that? How are they achieving that? And why are the British YouTubers having these nitrite problems?
Must be
So
their flow rates.
well, they're big low flow guys over there in England. Also, they
Yes.
think, oh, you
Yeah.
got to go low flow.
Yeah.
So
Oh, the
this is
retention
something.
time in the moving beds and stuff.
Yeah. So this is
I hear that a
something that
lot.
that we might have a disagreement on that. And so what what is the issue there? We have to like do a little uh, deeper diving into that. Why? How come? How
Like
can
I
the
said.
commercial fish farms do it?
Like I said, filtration is obviously very opinionated, as you can tell.
I think we should say right now, if there are any British YouTubers listening and they want to come on and talk about it,
Yeah,
I think we're all game.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I will
And
say
it,
another thing about the plastic media and the nitrite is that they do recommend when you're seeding your biofilter to run a high KH, and they say that that helps
yeah,
to
it
grow
helps a
your
lot.
bacteria quicker, especially in the beginning when you're maturing your media. And I know that a
Yeah.
lot of the British uh, koi tubers are running a lot lower KH than what they recommend in the commercial fish farms. So
That could definitely play a role into why they're not getting as much like nitrite conversion, I believe.
Yeah,
I suspect
Yeah.
so as well.
who knows? And then I do have another thing that I want to mention. When it comes to buying fish, think of the budget first and pick the fish that speaks to you from that tank, and you can be very, very happy watching that fish grow. Once you start to upgrade, that's when you can think about the next steps. But I would say start with what you're comfortable spending, and pick the prettiest fish that you find,
Mhm.
and then go from there.
Definitely.
Start uh stock start stocking slowly so you can build the system. Because I think that's what you did, Woody.
I did, but I didn't have my media prematured, so that's another thing. If you
Oh.
premature your
Mm.
media, you can jump
You
in
can
a
buy a
little
dozen
quicker.
fish and just throw it in
Yeah,
there.
don't worry about it.
Totally.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I hope we answered your question, Steve. Thank you for writing in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
We hope you're still listening.